Morning and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show this morning. We welcome you back after the break that we have had to take since Wednesday last week. It feels like it's been more than 3 days off, but we are here, we are back, and we are glad to be back and welcoming you on the show this morning. Tuesday, 25th of May, 2021. My name is Finifulu Falodun, and I'm welcoming you to the show this morning. Everyone joining us, wherever you're joining us from, we're glad you're here. We're glad to have you with us. Please let us know where you're joining us from. Um, Drop a comment in the comment section. Let's know where you're joining us from, and we will give you a welcome that is characteristic of our tribe or for our tribe. You're welcome to the show this morning. We have a topic to go with this morning, but before we do that, we will take headlines from the world of education this morning. Our first headline. For every candidate of the 2021 UTME, they have been instructed to print their mock exam slips. If you have anyone like that around you, this is the time to let them know, to inform them to have that slip printed and ready for them to take the this is quite sad, because if we have teachers who are the educators, in charge of the those in charge of our young minds, those in charge of getting our children, of passing across values to the younger ones, and then they're the ones caught in certificate forgery. That's not that's definitely not good enough. And we hope that Niger Suburb is able to pick out pick out those affected, is able to cleanse the system, and not just for Niger Suburb, but across the different levels, the different states, and where we have teachers involved. This cleansing needs to be done, and this kind of news should not be emerging from our education system. Or what's going on with them, but uh, this is from Kwara State. The governor they have detected forgery. No, sorry.
Hello, once again. Good morning. Sorry about the connectivity issue. My name is Rotimi Itai, and such a pleasure to be here. Uh, I'm sure that we'll have you connect back with us once again. This is the Good Morning Education Show. We are streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa to the entire world. And of course, it's always a great morning, as we usually say on the Good Morning Education Show. Please do not hesitate to tell us your location, where you're joining us and streaming from, where you're connecting with us from, and do let us know. Tell us your name, tell us your location. If it's your first time, we'll be excited to have you join us, you know, on the show. Yes. So today we'll be talking about the helicopter and bulldozer view, or helicopter and bulldozer kind of parenting. And please do not hesitate, I repeat, you know, to share and communicate with us. Please, if there's any questions that you have, do let us know the questions. Um, do let us know if you have questions, and we will be willing to address all this in the shortest possible time. So, without wasting more time, I will go on a short break just to make sure that we are on the same connectivity level, and then we'll be back as we continue on the show. So, are you there?
Yes, I'm back now. I'm sorry, I didn't even realize I was out.
Your audio is not there.
Oh,
So, are you there, Finn? Are
yes,
you there?
can you hear me now? I'm here. Can
Please
you hear
check
me
your
now?
audio, check your earpiece. I'll go on a short break and then I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is the Good Morning Education Show. And Fee, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm not sure if you're hearing me, but I can hear you.
Hello, Fee, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, I'm afraid that we're having a little bit of a glitch. Okay, so still trying to find out what's wrong. Well, I hope that you will hear me. Uh, Good morning, Ugochi. How are you today?
Good morning, sir. I'm very well, thank you. Please, can you hear me, sir? Mr. Rotimi, please, can you hear me?
Yes, Safety Chick, I can hear you. Good morning.
Oh, okay. Good morning. I was just checking that. Hope nothing was wrong from my end because I had been speaking, but I don't think he heard me.
Oh, okay. I think the network is a little funny this morning.
Okay.
All right. Before I got yanked off the other time, we were reviewing the headlines, and we were on the Kwara suburb. We were on the Kwara suburb story where they discovered fraud on their payroll. That's what we were on. Do you have any comments on that, Safety Chick?
Okay, I think that they should get to the bottom of it so that it doesn't happen again. Yes, and I think it should also serve as should I say, a warning or an example to other states to also check, just in case something like that is also going on in their own state, so that we can bring some transparency to the work that Subeb is doing.
That's correct, because well, this morning we've had news from two suburbs, from Niger and Kwara, and it's not good news. It's not news that we really want to celebrate, or that we want to keep hearing from our sector. So yeah, really, I think it's a call on other states to look inwards, really look inwards, and see what's going on with them. The next headline: lawyers call for reform of legal education to meet emerging trends.
I
Lawyers
agree.
call for reform in legal education. Yeah. It's not only in legal education that we should be repositioning to meet emerging trends. I think in every sector. This morning I was listening to the newspaper reviews, the headlines, and they were talking about to keep or not to keep the NYS scheme. And really, one of the commentators said it has outlived its purpose. It's no longer relevant to the times that we're in right now. So there's a need for the entire system to just be rejigged to meet the current trends. And maybe in some cases we need to go back to see the philosophy that set up some of these systems, that set up some of these institutions, and really do an overhaul of the philosophies, what was existing then, and the way law was practiced, for instance, is not the way it's being practiced right now. The main things remain, the foundation remains, but there are certain adjustments that need to be made, and really that call for reform should go round. It should go round, not just for legal education. It should go round. And this is quite an interesting one. The next headline is quite an interesting one. Which cause gave you sleepless nights? Man asks as he shares picture of people sleeping in class. I mean, I saw that headline. I started thinking, which cause can I really say gave me sleepless nights? Well, I think for me, the cause that gave me sleepless nights would probably be when I was doing research methods, and it was boring. It really was boring. That course was supposed to be to prepare us for our long essay and how to write the long essay, but it was boring. And because it was compulsory, because I had to pass it, the statistics part of it was super boring. um I lost interest at some point, but I knew that I needed to pass this exam. So yeah, I would say that gave me sleepless nights. Apart from that, well, is it really that gave me sleepless nights? Just that, yeah, I struggled a little. I struggled with that course. But when the pictures that were shared of people sleeping in class, sometimes it's not really because the course is boring. It's not because maybe it's difficult, or maybe it's really not because the lecturer is not connecting with the students. Sometimes it's because they're worn out, especially in higher institutions where you have people having to fend for themselves. Some of them have maybe had to work all through the night, businesses or things like that. They had to walk through the night, and there they are in class again, showing up, and they are tired, they're worn out. And if they don't do those things, they will not be able to stay in school. That's what keeps them in school. So sometimes it's just the burnouts, and yeah, we also cannot take away from the fact that sometimes the students are ahead of the lecturer. They already know what he's teaching, especially in this age where you can check things out yourself. So they're ahead and they just feel, okay, what's he talking about? I'd better take that time to sleep or to just catch a nap. So yeah, it's not a good reflection on the for that class, but then I guess we can't always avoid situations like that. Okay, so let me ask you, Mr. Timmy, which course gave you sleepless nights in school?
Which of the schools? University or secondary school?
This should be university because we're talking about. It should be the university.
All right. Which of the course? I did I really have sleepless nights? I think exam was what caused sleepless nights. Just that knowing that you don't want to play to the gallery, you don't want to risk in a university system, especially the one I experienced. If you wanted to pass, then you have to really pass well because there are many times you hear stories that touch the heart. You know what you wrote, you saw a different score. So if you're going to pass, then you must pass well because if you're going to fail, you're going to fail well. So I think it was more of exams that gave me sleepless nights. I think with benefit of hindsight, if one knew what one knew now, I probably would not go to university the way we were. A lot of us did not have a clue as to readiness in this university experience. So we took it a day at a time as it came. And there were so many distractions, so many difficulties, so many challenges, so many issues. You have to first think about water problem. I remember my year one in school. If you didn't wake up, as early as 4 a.m. to the well, the water gets dried by 5 a.m. because everybody is fetching and it's a rocky place. So the water is just out. So you think about that, you're starting your day for a lecture that probably starting, maybe a lecture starting 9 o'clock. You're in the lecture theater before the lecture starts, and still the lecturer doesn't come until maybe 11 o'clock. So many things, really. So I think it was just the entire exam that kind of gave sleepless night, not the particular subject, as far as I can remember.
Okay. So many students can relate to that. Many students had sleepless nights over exams. And welcome to the show, Mrs. Titi Adewusi of Niger.
Good morning, Fee. I can see that I'm rubbing off well on you in terms of the good morning excitement. Good morning, everyone. Rotimi, darling, good morning. It's a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Good morning to everyone listening out there. It is a good morning. I mean, say to your morning, it is a great morning. And we're excited to be here this morning after taking a short commercial break for a couple of days.
I'm sure Titi likes the sound of that.
Rotimi, I plead the fifth.
Okay. So, Spain, over to you.
Okay, so we're done with the headlines. I think we've taken the last one. We've taken Chorus Deb, and good morning, Smart Ogara, you're welcome, and to every other person joining us. So our topic this morning is helicopter and bulldozer parenting. Helicopter and bulldozer parenting. There's a lot of stories that come out of parent-teacher relationship these days, and parent-school relationship, and you see teachers complaining about the attitude of some students. You see parents say, no, don't touch my child. And the one that amazes me the most is they're giving us the homework to do, and sometimes I think, why do parents feel it's their responsibility to do the homework for the kids? Why are they not guiding them to do it? Why do we have, maybe I just give an overview of the helicopter and the bulldozer parents. The helicopter parents is the one is always zooming around. They're everywhere. They're watching. The children hardly have space to breathe, so they're there like the helicopter. They're tailing the child. They don't want them to. They're essentially keeping them away from the experiences that they should have growing up. So they feel before, let me just be there every time. Let me just be visible every time. And the children become fully 100% dependent on them, because they know that all you need to do is look around. Daddy is there, mommy is there. For the bulldozer parents, anything that remotely looks like an obstacle, they just move in and move it out. And that's parents, yes, showing love to their children, but it can be excessive when it comes to either being helicopter or bulldozer, like really not allowing them to take initiative. So that's the overview I would give on helicopter and bulldozer parents. And if I hand over to hear the opinion of to hear your opinion, and then we dig in deeper into the topic. So, okay, over to you, Mr. Adewusi.
I think helicopter parenting, we see it all the time, and it's more how will I say, it's more prevalent with us, this generation of parents. If you tell a parent, oh, send your child down the road to go and buy something, no, I cannot send my child down the road to go and buy something. Oh, what if something happens? Is that helicopter parents is simply you wanting to prevent your child from suffering from any form or in any way. You want to do everything so that you minimize the amount of suffering, not realizing that there's a place for suffering in terms of growth, and it's really the life of the butterfly, where if you don't allow the butterfly to struggle out of the pupae or the cocoon, the butterfly doesn't emerge. And that's really what we are all guilty of it in one form or the other. And so it's a thing of trying to make a conscious mindset. I tell this funny story. When I was young, and there's a candle. I don't know why we are attracted to all the things that can harm us, But my mom had this thing of, no, touch it, oh, touch it, oh. My mom had this thing of touch it, touch it. You know how you be wanting to do. She's always like, no, touch it, touch it. Of course, you needed to experience it, max once for you to know that, man, candle is not your friend. You know, it's not the days of now we have the chargeable lamp. In those days, it was the candle. And so we kind of learned a lot of things the hard way. I remember the first time that my sisters sent my immediate senior sister and I, Fisayo, to go and buy sweet from them. Normally, my mom sent them on the errand, but they decided to be lazy and send us just opposite our house. It really was literally just opposite our house to, to go and buy. Needless to say, we didn't look left, we didn't look right, we didn't look left again. That's how a taxi hit us on the road. And we both landed on the floor. You know, that kind of thing. But senior sisters now, they won't allow you expose them. Of course, we could not report to my parents. But of course, what does that mean? It meant that when crossing the road, if you see the way my sister and I will look left, look right, and run across. So those are some of the things. I hear a lot of people, as their children become teenagers, they're reluctant to send them out. You see your parents dropping children off for jobs because they don't want them to enter public transport or any of those things. But those experiences are needed. You know, it's really, really needed to allow your child to fail. You know, it's like riding bicycle. You know how many times you fail. Your parents try to help and prevent it, but the number of times you fail. We have people that their children are looking for jobs. They're the ones that go all out. They'll look for the job, follow up with the person, make all the calls. You know, all those things are elements of helicopter parenting. My parents didn't help me look for any job, honestly. When we finished, they just expected me to go and find a job. But I see people here, they're the ones that call you, and every follow-up call is done by the parent. Every follow-up call is done by the parent. There are people that, you know, I worked in a company, and there were people that the company's office was based in Ikoyi. And, you know, there were people that came to work, was their drivers that brought them to work. And then there's some days they say, oh, they couldn't do this because the driver wasn't available, and they couldn't do that. And, you know, because I'm like, okay, they went to drive, but there was no fuel. You know, the driver had not gone to buy fuel in the car. You know, so then a lot of things we do now that we take over for our parents, for our children, that we should stop doing that. I remember speaking to a girl. She was doing some exam in the bank, and she didn't do well. So her parents said she should come and have a discussion with us. So as we were taking her through revising the work, you know, it came to insurance. And I was like, but, you know, we're like, but you have a car. She says, yes, you have a car. So do you understand the insurance? I mean, isn't your car insured? She said, yeah, but, you know, it's my dad that pays the insurance. It's my dad. It's my dad. It's my dad. So, you know, she just couldn't understand any of those concepts because she doesn't do it herself. You know, in the UK, a lot of children enter the bus to go to school. And these buses have bullies. These buses have, you know, gang members and all that. But parents don't follow that. Most parents don't take their children to school. The children have to walk to school. A lot of us can't even imagine our children doing that. So we have a place down my house that sells bread. I had to let my children go and be buying the bread. In the beginning, it was the help that started, but as they got older, I started letting them go. I just give them instructions. Don't enter anybody's car. The same thing our parents did. Don't enter anybody's car. Don't talk to strangers. Don't do this. Don't do that. You know, the first couple of days, I walk them down the road. I time it. Now I don't even bother. You know, they go and come. So I'm just giving all these various examples and saying that most of us are guilty. Is a conscious effort to say you need to let your children be independent from tying their shoelaces. I still see people that they're 8 years old. And they'll say, Auntie, help me tie my shoelace. I'm like, 8. I should help you tie your shoelace. Can't you tie it yourself? Do you understand? Or they're still giving you their Capri Sun to help you put the straw inside. Do you understand? So it's a little things like that we as parents need to be very conscious. We are very protective. I know there are a lot of dangers out there. People tell me it's not like in our own time. I'm like, in our own time there was bomo. So there was this one that they would hypnotize you and you go and empty out your parents' jewelries and give to them.
7 colors.
Do you understand? I remember how many times I got lost trying to find my friend's house. Because those days you didn't have your parents carrying you up and down the place. Your friend lives somewhere, she gave you the address on a piece of paper. There was no Google map. How many times you end up on the opposite side and there was no phone call to be able to be calling her to tell her you got too missing? You know, I remember I went to a friend's house after I got missing 3 times. When I found out where her house was from my house, I just started laughing. I'd gone in the completely opposite direction. So those are some of the things that help us be who we are today, and it's important that we try not to, hover like an helicopter around our children. Over to you.
Thank you for your. I mean, just hearing you speak, it brings back quite some memories. But let's hear from you, Mr. Rotimi.
Okay. I think I would like to toe the line. Titi actually, Titi actually opened us to not just see the past and the present, but also to see the dynamics. A lot of things have changed, but I still think that some things are still the same. Um, the perception that a lot of people have several stories around the birth of their children sometimes reinforces the unusual extent where you see them being a bit of um, how do I call it? Should we call that overprotective? I won't want to say overprotective, but the truth of the matter is you hear people who tell you that I know what I went through before I had this child. I know what I went through before I had this child. So it's a mixed reality where we we do not prepare our children for life, but we want to use preservation as a preparatory tool. And sometimes that's where the conflict comes in because the truth of the matter is the moment you are overprotective, you need to also see the other side of the coin, which means you are not enabling the child himself or herself. Because at the end of the day, you start having the children being stopped at two levels of growth. So discovery is a challenge for them, and then dependency, like Titi said, becomes a major challenge. And the growth levels actually go beyond that. I normally like to open people's eyes to see that you need to realize that children transit from discovery to dependence, from dependence to independence. And then ultimately, as they approach adulthood, we now promote them to get into interdependence. So when you look at all those cycles, you begin to see that what we expose the children to or what we do not expose the children to tends to affect them from transitioning from discovery to dependence. And when a child is too dependent, right, it begins to also affect his development mentally, physically, and in some cases, across all the dimension of his life. You know, some people have lived all their lives looking for validation, and it's as a result of some measure of extreme parenting. You know, I'll share this story. I did plan to, but I remember my dad shared the story with me, and also my uncle told me something about my grandfather. That's their dad, and he is a faith-based person. And but this I'm just using this as an illustration. He was very concerned about his kids. This was many years after. I'm talking about he was old. My parents were old. His siblings were old, and all that. But he just kind of was looking out for them, especially because being a faith-based person, I think he was looking at them having life, living life, that kind of thing. So, and he kept on praying, in his words, as I heard, that the reason why he did not want to die, pretty much in summary, was because he felt that who would take care of his children, especially morally. And he had a dream, and in that dream he saw a farm that didn't have a fence, and he saw another land filled with hyenas, baboons, monkeys, and the likes, you know. And there was nothing happening. The hyenas, the baboons were in one land. The maize, the corn was on the other land, and there was no fence. There was no barrier. And he said that, God told him and said, "Who is keeping this farm?" And of course, he got the message that ultimately God is the one that protects, God's the one that keeps. I, for one, believe that it's God that protects children, because if I tell you some things that I've done in the past, I can show you my hand. If you look at this wrist, I was trying to reenact WrestleMania, I think WrestleMania 8 or WrestleMania 7. So there's something called suplex, if you know what suplex. So I was trying to remake that experience in the wrestling ring in the house. And so when I try to do suplex, maybe with the cushion of the chair, and then I get it well, and I jump, So one day I was trying to act like one of those wrestlers, and then I jumped up, and next thing I hit my hand on the fan, and that was how I broke my hand. And sometimes you look at some of the silly things we've done, and it's just God that protects children. Honestly, it's just God that protects children. So I think that we should learn to give guided experiment, and also allow the children to explore, because that way they build their inner compasses and sometimes get to have that mental resolute, or on doing things that they should do, as opposed to sneaking out and getting into trouble. So that's my take from the conversation, and that's really a back off to parenting in itself.
Yeah, thank you. I'm hearing, trying to reenact WrestleMania in my head. I'm like, God, like the kind of things that children do. Oh my goodness. And that's why it's, you know, the comment we have here, this type of parenting goes to the other extreme of irresponsibility, which is overprotection. It eventually robs the child of street sense. That street sense is one that you can't buy anyway. It just has to come with experience. And the older we get, the more we realize how much of street sense we need to survive, the more we realize how much of the skills that are kept away now, especially now. We understand the challenges, but children cannot live in a bubble. Um, Alatunde Adebayo says, excellent morning all, and timely topic, helicopter father and tiger mommy. Helicopter father and tiger mommy makes the work of teachers and school more challenging. Oh my goodness, I can picture tiger mommy, wow. Also, such parents keep serving the children almost throughout life, because these children are almost like wheelbarrow, which must be pushed or aided in order to move. Okay, so on this, I'd like to hear your thought, Ms. Adewusi. This aspect of the children, in the cycle of life at every point in time, one thing that is sure is that everybody gains a level of independence at one point or the other. Either they want it or not, they are pushed out to have to be independent. But where we have the parents that the children don't even know, they haven't learned to be independent, what effects does this have on the parents themselves?
Okay, let me give you some examples. I know people now, right, that they're in their 40s. So let me just put there, that's about it. They're in their 40s, but it's still their parents picking up their bills. So their parents are the ones sorting out their house rent, paying their children's school fees, taking care of their cars. And these are not children that did not go to good schools, just to put things in perspective. But these are parents that just, continue to do that the child can't do anything. The wife is complaining, but it's the parents that are doing all the things. Then you also have, things that your child can't stay in any job. It just goes, because in the end, every job is just too stressful. They're used to the amounts that their parents was giving them as allowance. It's never up to the amount that they're earning. So I see a lot of people that because the amount their parents gave them as allowances, so when you are their bosses at work, they're just looking at you and say, how much is she even paying me? Because their allowance is taking care of all their needs. They are living at home. There are a lot of people that live on the island. They are single. Their parents live somewhere in VGC. Meanwhile, they are living in their parents' place inside Lekki Phase 1, house paid for, rent paid for. Do you understand? Driving Range Rover. So, those are some of the things. It seems fine. And then later on in life, when you expect that, okay, I would rest, you're still the one picking up all the bills. And then what also happens is that a lot of children that then have a lot of money then start looking for excitement, and they tend to go into drugs. Because after you've done all, there's no excitement, but you have that excess money, you tend to get for more. So you tend to then, take to drugs. So you see a lot, if you go to a lot of, drug rehab centers, most of, especially the private ones, they are the ones that have a lot of these children in there. Children that they were just given everything. I remember someone that his father gave him a Range Rover Jeep. That's how he and his friends were drunk, and they crashed in that, that bend at that husband, they crashed into in that at husband. And then what's funny? He's got a brand new one. And that car that he crashed was brand new. I don't think the car was up to like a year. So it just means that you're stuck with a baby for life. The high possibility that your child will go into drugs is a lot. When you think as a parent you should be resting, then you now take on the burden of your children. So it's really in our interest. I have people that they are sitting at home, they are not working 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, because every job is beneath them. So they are in their parents' house, their parents go to work. Now their parents are frustrated. Do you understand? Now they want to cut them off, but they never actually cut them off because they still give them the car, they still give them money. I tell people that I had no choice but to look for a job, because if you stay at home with my mom, you become omodo. You know what omodo. My mom is using to clean all the fish, go to all the market, send you on all the errands. I just had to get, even before I got a job, I was out of my house every morning. I don't hang out at my friend's house until 6 o'clock. Then that's when my mom will know that she has errands to tailor. We just couldn't imagine not getting a job, because you would just become my mom's almost door. Do you understand? All the errands in this world, she will send you all the errands. So I think it's really important that we help our children be independent early. We help them to, see, my son is in primary 5, because he's going to be going to secondary school, and he's going to go for boarding. I now don't check his homework anymore. If he likes so, do the homework. If he likes so, don't do the homework. All I just get is the teacher calls me, tell me your son did not do it. I say, your teacher called, I said she should deal with you. So it's no longer all that one that when he first comes, because if I don't do that now, that means I'm giving him a whole year primary 6 to learn to be independent. When he then goes to secondary school, he'll be able to do it on his own. He'll be able to, set that internal clock that allows him to remember he needs to go do his homework, he needs to go do his assignment. So we need to be intentional. Yesterday, a friend called me. Her daughter is on holiday for the next 2 months, and she wanted her to get a job. She just gave the daughter my number that she should call me. So I got some of my friend's number. She was like, hello, this is, she said her name. I'm like, this is your mom's phone. She said, yes. She was now trying to start the conversation. Her luck was that I remembered her mom had mentioned it to me. So I said, oh, you're at home right now. I decided to help her not make her push for too long because I was busy. So she did that, explained to me what she wanted, and that's fine. But I know people that they're the ones that are calling up with me. Has he called you? I'm like, no, your son hasn't come. See, so I'm like, oh, madam, let him call me. I know I've said this wonderful example of a friend of mine that got her son to come and work with us for an internship during his break. The first week she followed him. The first week she dropped him. The second week she followed him by bus for him to know the bus route. The third week she let him go home by bus from his house. Of course, one of the days he fell asleep in the BRT and passed his bus stop. Do you understand? So he then got down at the wrong bus stop. When he got down at the wrong bus stop, what happened? He was now on his phone trying to call her. That's how some people just sped past an Okada and snatched his phone. So he was now stuck. He was now in this bus stop, no phone to call his mom. And for the life of him, he just couldn't remember how to then get there since he was in the wrong bus stop. So he did the best thing he could do. He went back home. He found his way back home. Meanwhile, in the office, I called his mom that her son is not home. So she now started calling him, nobody to pick up his phone because they are stealing his phone. But after that experience, what do you think will happen? He will know better not to fall asleep in the bus. Do you understand? Look at all our experiences. Jumping bus. I know how many times I've jumped bus only to get down at the wrong bus stop, then had to walk to the next bus stop I recognized. All these things were problem-solving skills that I had to learn because our parents in those days were not carrying us up about. They had to go to car. They didn't have car and driver that would be taking you up and down the place. So it's important that your child learns. It's important that you look at what's the next stage in your child's life and how do you prepare the child for that. My son, I keep saying this funny story. My son went to boarding school and they stole all his things. Because in his mind, he left it in his locker and left his locker opened. When I asked him, oh boy, why did you leave your locker open? He says, but mom, it's my things. Why would someone take what's my thing? I say, because in our house, you can't take, I leave the Capri Sun and the drinks out there. It's out there in the open, but my children can't take it. They have to come and ask. So in their own mind, you must come and ask. Well, I'm like, oh boy, when you live in public place, so do you understand? It's the same people in the office. People are like, oh, but I put this in the fridge. I'm like, when you live in a public space, you have to realize that different characters are there. So you have to do the extra mile of safeguarding your things, So he's now learned. But someone say, but mom is a Christian school. I'm saying, when the children of God gather, the devil is there. Do you understand? But mom is a Christian school. God, people, they are not Christians. So I'm not letting you know. So he's learning now in life that, just because people have this label doesn't mean that's really what they are. And people steal. He's always so amazed. We say, mommy, they steal. I'm like, you're just learning scope. So he's coming for the holidays, and I've already gotten him a job so that he will start the process of learning about work. Work is not all the excitement that you see on TV. There's a lot of the boring aspect. So my thing is that I don't want to be stuck with a child that I'm paying their children's fees. I'm counting down to when we stop paying school fees. I don't want to now carry on someone else's burden, but build house for them, buy them car. Up to now, pay school fees of their children till kilo day. That's not how my own parents did for me. Anyway, that was just some of it. Your children, is that the same thing? When they come to the workplace, you know people that their parents are helicopter parents, even the way they behave at work. Oh, some my mommy, I'm like, my mom, I'm like, isn't this boy 25? So because my mom did not, my I don't have clean clothes because I'm like, you don't have clean clothes, so because the washman did not show up. Come take me soap and wash the one shirt and put it to dry overnight and iron it in the morning. What is that? Okay, let me leave my pleasant.
Thank you for that. There are quite a number of aspects of this that we can look at. Looking at the aspect of, yes, parents love their children. You can just take love overboard. You can just take it a little too far and then love the children until they're not useful to themselves anymore. It's not like we're saying that, all that parents who are helicopter or bulldozer are bad parents. We're just saying that they need to put their fear aside. Yes, the entire we all are in this insecure environment. We all are in this environment where a lot of nasty things are going on. But we can't, because of that, now wrap the children in a bubble and keep them on a shelf and think that that's what preserves them. No, but before we round off, I would like for Mr. Rotimi to speak to this. Where this is our society, and we see what's going on with our leaders. Where we continue to have children turned out by helicopter and bulldozer parents who they only, in fact, taking care of themselves is a problem. They can't even fend for themselves. What kind of leaders are we looking at in the next 10, 15 years with the crop of children that are that will come out from this system?
I don't think the answer is difficult to identify. It's going to be a generation that will look to other people to take charge of their nation, look to other people to take charge. You find out that it will get to become an outsourcing society, not because of automation, not because of ease, but because of incompetence. Because if you really look at it, even up to the point of getting to take political positions, already people write themselves off. So we outsource to the bad eggs, we outsource to the anyhows, we outsource to the people who probably don't even have an agenda. And I think that to add to what has been said so far, we must begin to embrace a collective agenda. And what it simply means is you'll find that families that tell their children, although there are extremes to it, families that tell their children where they're going, what they want to turn out to, what kind of wealth, what type of comfort, how they shouldn't spend their money yet on cars, but they should not just plan to have house rent, but rather look towards not just house rent, look towards buying their own land and buying their own houses or building their own houses. You see, most of the time, those generations kind of were open and communicative as to where they are going. But our generation has less information, and to a large extent, it's rubbing off on the children. So the children just need to say, I'm hungry, and food appears, or the explanation that there's no food is there comes into question, or the music in the on radio tells you why government is bad. But then everybody is not seeing where they themselves play a role. So I think that we need to, for us to change that trend, we need to start designing direct and indirect ways of building people to move from dependence to independence and interdependence. Sometimes those of us privileged to have traveled out of the country to different countries, we find out that the concept of bus stop is well structured. You know, um, you will be shocked if we had disciplined bus drivers and were able to enforce bus stops. People will naturally walk. You understand? So the fear of I can't walk on road. If you don't have a car, you will walk. And even when you have a car, there are levels of things you will still get to do, which makes it looks like you are independent of some sort. There are countries that they've built the sidewalk so that the sidewalk can easily get to make people, do things, walk, get people to have that consciousness. We need to, as parents and as educators, and of course, even the faith-based communities, it shouldn't always be old people speaking to the church. You should get the young people to speak to the church. Let them fail, let them be guided, let them be counseled, but let them start getting familiar. Because if you are not careful, when we eventually get into position of privilege, we won't have a reference point. We won't have mentoring. You see, even in the presidency, even in politics, even in leadership in offices, the internship structure is dying. The voluntary structure is dying. Why? Because a lot of people come into some of these positions as greyhounds. Nothing has mentored them through the process, not necessarily as a person, but a process that makes it almost like seamless to evolve to. And that's what's happening, that when young people now become people who are dating, who now get in love, fall in love, and get married, guess what happens? They get into marriage without true references. They only know you don't hit a lady. Most people know the things they should not do, but they don't know the things they should do. You understand? No divorce, no cheating, no this. We know the things we shouldn't know and we shouldn't do, but we are left clueless with what we should do. And that's why you find a lot of people make mockery about so many things in their lives. So I think that's the way to go. If we want to have a society that is not totally outsourced, you'll be shocked very soon if you're not careful. Some people will invite other men to take care of their wives as an outsourcing solution because they don't know how to take care of their. Some people will actually outsource other parents to take care of their children. So instead of vacation, it will become surrogacy and a front end. I think we need to change it and change it now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take the comments that we have before we round off. Olushola Olumide says it's good parents realize that biological growth is more a function of nature, while mind growth is by nurture. Let the children be responsible. And Olatunde Adebayo says the kind of leaders overprotective parents will produce are seen in our leadership offices, where a leader cannot differentiate between what is right and what is wrong, can't compare, contrast, take position on issues of concern, careless for others' feelings, etc. Okay, we have another comment by Olatunde Adebayo. Parents who are overprotective tend to fulfill their parenting responsibility, but without deliberation and being intentional about it. Schools now assume more responsibilities, never like before, to help close the gap through training of the parents in the homeschool partnership program. So that's a retraining of parents. We need to do right by, first of all, our children. And we need to do right also by our society. The society is made up, comes from the family unit. And if what we want to see, if we want to see a better society where we don't have to complain about the kind of leaders and leadership that we have, then we need to do our quota. And as much as we love our children, as much as we want them to have the best that we can give them, we should also realize that for them, taking responsibility is a must. We can't shy away from it. We have to allow them do these things. Thank you very much to everyone who's been here, to all of our tribe members, for those who have dropped comments. Thank you, Olatunde Adebayo. Thank you, Shola Odumide. Thank you, Smart Omogara, and to every other person who is watching out there. Thank you very much. And to our analysts in the house, thank you, Mr. Titi Adewusi. Thank you, Mr. Rotimi Tayo. And thank you, Finfolo Falodun, for being here. Thank you, everybody. But we were not going to go without. It's been a while that we said, it's been a while that you heard it. So this morning, we're going to give it to you in our usual fashion. Can we go together this morning to wish our tribe a beautiful morning? 3, 2, 1, let's go. It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Have a great day, everyone.